I can just be here. That's about where my headspace is.
You can prompt questions and stuff like as we talk about it. So
my headspace is kind of just here. So
that's fair. Mine's not much different. So not a great mental health week.
No, it's been better for me. Energy levels are so bad. I'm just tired, and it's kind of just like,
the 5-HTP works though.
It does.
It works.
Did you notice a difference when you took it, like the day you took it?
Yeah, I would say about 30 minutes after.
Yeah.
For the next couple of hours.
Yeah, it's crazy.
You said it's an 8-hour half-life?
I think so. I think it said about it might have been 15 minutes to an hour for it to actually like
make a difference,
start working in your system, but I think it was an 8-hour half-life.
Well, you got to remember too, when I take it, it's typically at my lunch break, so have anywhere from 30 minutes to 2 hours to get back to work. Once I'm at work, I'm not really being conscious of how I feel mentally because I'm worried about everybody else, and I'm thinking about other things around my mind. So it's probably unfair to say that it's not working. It's just that I noticed it,
Right, you noticed
first
it
couple hours.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
I think the biggest thing for me was when I took it and I went to the gym and I wasn't in a piss poor mood anymore. And then when I got to work, I was more social with my coworkers than normally, especially for that week. Because that week I was like, don't fucking talk to me. Like, literally, they could see it in my face. I was like, I just want to be left alone. Even I feel bad, but my boss's boss came up, was asking everybody how they were doing. He came up to me, he was like, how you doing? And I was like, not good. I didn't even look at him. I was looking at my screen. I just told him not good. And he was like, life treating you bad or life treating you okay? And I said, no. And he just walked away. And I was like, sorry, this is not a good day to small talk me. I just need to be left alone.
Yeah.
Then the very next day I took that 5-HTP and I was like, oh, I feel great. Like everything's fine in the world.
Well, I don't know enough about it, but I'm kind of curious as to what the use of androgens do to your serotonin. I'd imagine it's probably higher when you're using them.
Right.
At a higher level.
Yeah.
Probably to a point. There's probably a point of diminishing returns.
Right.
But, and then backing off of it has to affect that negatively.
Right.
I know coming all the way off does.
Yeah. For sure.
For sure. 100%.
Yeah.
No doubt about it. So.
We've both experienced that pretty...
Yeah.
That transition is always incredibly stressful.
Yeah. I'm completely off other than TRT and don't really plan on doing anything for a little while. So.
Yeah. The only thing I've talked about is if my test levels are low when I go get my blood work done, popping up to like 300 instead of 200, just seeing if it makes a difference, at least during this cut. Because when you cut weight, your testosterone drops. So my assumption is that maybe that's somewhat of a factor in how I feel. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's completely just energy related as far as like carbs go. I don't know.
Right.
But all I know is I feel shitty. So.
Fair enough.
Mentally better though. Physically just feel kind of shitty.
Yeah.
I slept until 1:30 today, but also the time skip fucked me up really bad. I was up when the time skip happened. So I was doing homework because just started back school on Friday. So I was up all night doing homework, and I look over at the clock, and I'm like, oh, I probably got a little bit of time. It's 4 a.m., and I'm like, what the fuck? So I like, well, I'm pretty much done, so I'm just going to close everything out and roll on to bed. And then when I looked at the clock that's in the kitchen, because it's a manual clock, I was like, oh, time skip happened. So now this says 3, it says 4, so my body thinks it's 3, but... everywhere, well, Alabama thinks it's 4.
Yeah. So
whatever this time zone is, Central.
Central, yep.
And there's some places that don't do the daylight savings time.
Yeah, it's like it'll be like in the middle of a state, like
yeah. It's like
or a whole state in a time zone or something.
Yeah, it's kind of funky. I wish we would all agree to one or the other, and just not make it. I don't really enjoy the getting the time back as much, like, because when you lose the time, it feels like it's worse. I don't know.
Losing the time feels worse, but I ain't gonna lie to you. This year with gaining the hour, it fucked me up a little bit, especially at the end of my day. Like,
Right.
it's weird. I feel like you're in the twilight zone for the first week. Now, like it was just, my first client's at 6 a.m. It was just starting to be sunny when I got to work.
Yeah.
Now with the time jump,
It's like bright.
6 a.m. is going to be 5 a.m.
Right.
basically, and it's going to be
dark
again. So joy,
Yeah.
whatever though,
Yeah.
part of it. Not looking forward to that 6 a.m. schedule this week.
Yeah.
Don't have it tomorrow though, so
Tomorrow's Monday. I got to get up early tomorrow, unfortunately. But I'm so tired today. I don't think it's going to, I think falling asleep's going to be so easy.
good.
Hopefully. Probably won't be. Like 10 o'clock will roll around. I'm like, ready to go. Let's go
I
do some
started
stuff.
ashwagandha and my DHEA back.
Yeah.
Yep. Do you stay on top of your DHEA pretty regular? That's good.
Every day.
Ashwagandha does seem to make somewhat of a difference in terms of quality of sleep.
Yeah, I always take it. My nighttime,
It does not make me sleepy,
it doesn't make me sleepy either.
but
The only
it
thing
does
that,
keep me to sleep.
only thing that makes me sleepy that I've taken genuinely is the MK 677. That always makes me sleepy. I haven't been taking it lately, and I probably need to, but I'll see what my blood work shows as far as like my HGH.
I probably need to as well, but
It's just getting it, and then like
progesterone doesn't make you sleepy?
not really.
God, it fucking wears me out.
I never really noticed. I take it.
I only get to take it like 2 or 3 times a week now, though.
I'm on 4. I basically take it before I go to the gym, or the night before I'm going to do a gym day.
Yep.
But I don't really notice it that much.
Fair enough.
But I take that 4 times a week. I take ashwagandha, vitamin D3, and fish oil and red
Are you
yeast.
also officially that age where you have nighttime vitamins and daytime vitamins?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, me too.
I mean, when you're on gear and stuff, you do have to make that a priority. Like, I don't know if you saw that picture of Joe's supplement tackle box that he has, but goddamn, that's a lot of supplements.
You gotta do what you're supposed to do.
Yeah.
I mean,
When you're on gear, you gotta take care of some specifics.
yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, I don't think I see enough of a performance difference to ever do an egregious amount anymore.
Yeah.
Double up my test, maybe an oral.
Yeah.
HGH is wonderful.
Yeah.
If I could afford it, I would
right.
do it every cycle. But
That's the problem, is how expensive it is. Maybe one day.
one day I'll make the big bucks and be able to afford a $450 kit every month.
Right.
Until then, it's going to be the Chinese stuff for me. $150 kit.
Yeah.
Don't really know what it is.
Just hoping it's HGH.
It says it's growth hormone.
Well, I mean, when you get your blood work done, if your growth hormone's up,
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. I mean, that's a good thing about blood work every 3 months, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Something else I was thinking when we were talking about. Oh, did you? I'm sure you saw they removed the black box on testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting. I was actually I shared that post that one guy made because he was saying, the guy that posted it said something about it was related to heart disease or something, right? That's why they said they didn't find a link towards it, so they removed it. But Bryant was saying it got a black box because of blood pressure.
which would make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
It's tied to heart disease, obviously.
Right.
Shouldn't have to-
But I just thought that was interesting that there was two different people saying two different things about why it had a black box, and I was kind of like, I don't know. I probably should have done research and looked into it myself and been like,
100% sure it has to do with blood count and blood pressure.
yeah,
Blood pressure only goes up because your blood count gets higher.
Right.
So, I mean, it's essentially denser blood, so it's going to make your heart work harder. So
right.
It makes sense. But, I mean,
But it's gone now.
it is, the efficacy of it for mental health is way better than an SSRI, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Coming from somebody that's taken a lot of both,
Mm-hmm.
would not return to an antidepressant.
Right.
Not in a million years.
And if now that we have that, well, not that it's new, but now that we know about the 5-HTP, it's kind of like that kind of solves a lot of
renders it useless.
yeah,
Side effects of an SSRI are huge fucking bummers too.
yeah.
Huge bummers.
Not Not something I'm interested in. I've never felt like, well, other than a very, very low point in my life, I've never felt like my depression was bad enough that I needed an antidepressant. This past episode was pretty rough, but then I took that 5-HTP and I was like, holy shit, not so bad.
We're okay now.
Suddenly. It's almost like I just didn't have any serotonin producing in my brain.
I have things wrong with me that no amount of drugs are ever going to fix anyway.
Yeah.
So the best I can do is maintenance how I feel, and diet, exercise, and hormone therapy do better for that than anything else I've ever done. So, regular therapy, I do believe in that.
Yeah, and I think therapy is important. I've never done it myself, but I do believe in it. I've just, like I said, I've never felt like my depression was bad enough for an antidepressant. I've also never thought it was bad enough to go to therapy.
I'm not so sure therapy isn't something all of us should do.
I mean, it
makes you be introspective and learn something about yourself.
That's true. Funny enough, I got a comment from my boss after before I even got feedback from an interview that I had that went poorly. I explained how I was feeling about it just because I wanted to talk about it to somebody, kind of like therapy. But I explained how I felt about it and what I felt went wrong. And her comment was, wow, that was incredibly introspective. I was like, I guess.
The interview went poorly?
It did, yeah. Did not get the job for exactly the reasons why I said. So, that's neither here nor there, though. I just took some bad advice from somebody who was a senior, well, not a senior, we'll just say a high up, gave me some advice. I won't say it's bad advice. I'll say it's advice that didn't work for me. So
fair enough.
Yeah.
Well,
the way I interpreted it was not a positive.
I got you. Well, you win some, you lose some.
Yeah.
I guess that's the show before the show. Mm-hmm. Welcome to the Sip It and Rip It podcast. Mm-hmm. You can listen to us on Spotify. Mm-hmm. You can listen to us on Apple Podcasts. You can watch us on YouTube. Leave comments, subscribe, rate us 5 stars, send us DMs. You can follow us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skedios, at Sip It and Rip It. And we buy our meat at the butcher, so buy your fucking meat at the butcher. It's awesome. It's here in Vinemont. Great selection. If they don't have what you want, they will cut it for you. Justin does an awesome job. Friend of the show. We really, really like what they do. And then Jam Logistics, Chad Patterson and his boys have supported me for a long time in Coleman Barbell, and now they're doing the same with the show. So thank you by way of alcohol, but thank you all the same.
They're open 11 to 4 on the weekends, I think.
Yeah, the butcher. Yep.
11 to 4. They usually have their food truck out there. They have a lot of good stuff. They smoke meat. Saw they said they had smoked chicken, turkey.
Their smoked turkey's the only turkey I'll eat, and I shit you not, I fucking hate turkey, but theirs is amazing.
So, good stuff, good options. They could probably do bulk stuff for you for meal prep. Worth checking out.
100%. Love it. So, that's the intro. What did you do in the gym this week?
Nothing great. This was supposed to be like a peak week, and I really just didn't. I just did my best, honestly. I tried to survive. Like I was telling you earlier, I don't know if I said it on the show before the show, I'm down 10 pounds now, and that's been in 3 weeks. So, well, I guess technically 4, if you want to count the before I actually started the diet. I had like a week where I was not eating crap, so I was may have been losing weight at that point. I don't know. But 10 pounds down, got 7 to go to hit 230, which was my first goal. Now I'm in the boat of I'm debating on at 230 if I'm going to maintenance for a minimum of 2 weeks. And if I decide that my body composition is where I want it to be, I'll do 4 weeks and then go back into a bulk. If I decide my body composition is not where I want it to be, I'm going to cut down to 220. And then I probably won't go any lower than 220 because I just don't think that'll be good for my frame. I thought I had some to toss around 210 because Joe is at 212 and he looks nuts, but I don't have the muscle mass that Joe does. So I don't know where I land as far as my body fat. I'll find out on Monday what my scan looks like roughly. I mean, we'll have a rough idea of body fat percentage, and I'll probably kind of like go from there. But that's my primary goal right now, is just changing my composition and being a little more athletic. But my energy levels are down. Don't have death face yet. I don't know if I'll get to the point of having death face, but
You got enough beard, we may not know.
we may not just know anyway, unless I just feel my face and I'm like, damn, my face feels thin or something like that. But I genuinely don't think I will get that low body fat. But
The last time you did this drastic cut, you cut down to 199.
Yep.
So we're talking about a 21-pound swing potentially.
yeah,
So, I mean, that's a good place body composition-wise.
right.
That you're going to
Hopefully,
be able to retain 21 more pounds than you did last time.
yeah.
So,
Hopefully, primarily muscle.
Yep.
But we'll see. We'll kind of see. I've been intentionally not posting physique pictures because I don't want to know. I will obviously take a shower. I'll see myself in the mirror or something. Sometimes I'll be like, oh, I'm looking a little thinner. Sometimes I'll be like, man, I don't look any different at all.
Yeah.
So I'm intentionally not I'm doing it for the sole purpose of trying to lose weight, get into a better composition, and then by the end of it,
get that anabolic rebound and be stronger next time you're 240.
exactly. I've also toyed with the idea of going all the way up to 275. I just don't know if I just really don't, I know I don't want to be that heavy.
It's oppressive.
It's hard. It's a lot of food, and I already don't like eating a lot of food. I don't feel good when I eat a lot of food, but if it was more muscle, it'd probably feel better. But when I was at 260, I was miserable.
I think if you were consistently under, say, 12% body fat at your max weight, then we could consider
Right.
275. I do think you have the frame for 275.
I could be.
I think ultimately, I think ultimately that maybe even should be the goal, just from a coach's perspective, not
Right.
from yours. But,
If I were to-
I talk about it all the time, and it's serious. And I thought about lining up my best lifters in every weight class to show you what they look like.
Right.
And none of them are fat.
Right.
None of them.
Yeah.
Like Austin being the heaviest at 275, and then you at 242, and so on and so forth. I have somebody pretty much at everything.
Yeah.
Logan.
You really do have some all the way to 165, right? You have
Yeah,
a 165
currently,
lifter.
Yeah. And none of them are fat.
Yeah.
Like, I do believe gone are the days of fat powerlifters winning. I really do believe that. Good body composition tells me that you got a lot of muscle mass on your frame for
Yeah. For moving weight.
for moving weight. So, but I would say, if you were consistently sub 15, probably at your max weight, yeah, maybe we've arrived and we can
Right.
move up one. But I don't think that's the case, even for somebody like you that's relatively lean, even at your biggest.
Yeah.
I don't think that you're quite 20, but I know you're not 15 when you're 247.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I was looking at those pictures from regionals, and I kind of felt like I looked fat, to be honest with you.
mean,
Like, not fat, but like heavy,
Yeah.
So I was like, man, that kind of sucks. Compared to the meet that I did with Joe, I looked like a whole different person.
Yeah.
Like, I looked like the biggest dude there. Like,
Yeah.
I looked jacked, and I was like, damn, why am I not jacked anymore? Probably because less athletic.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
I focused really, really hard on just trying to be, and I said this in the post, I tried really, really hard to be strong in a perfect setting and not tried to be strong in an athletic setting. So, just things that we're working on. I know we were supposed to be talking about gym this week, and I just went on a super long fucking tangent about weight loss and shit. But anyway, gym this week, it was just kind of like pressing. I pressed yesterday 315 for like sets of 8. I think it was 8, 6, 5, and 3 because it just fucking wrecked me. I did low bar squats, and I did like 345 for 2, like literally for sets of 2. And I was like, this fucking sucks. And that's when I decided I probably don't want to be a low bar squatter anymore. It felt incredibly uncomfortable the whole time. Not painful, although I did start to feel some stuff in my lower back, but like the whole movement now to me just feels uncomfortable. Even when they were moving good like last week, it just feels unnatural to me now, and it may just be because I'm unpracticed in it, but I'm not enjoying it, and it doesn't feel like I'm stronger in it, and it doesn't feel like I'm getting anything out of it. So probably cutting that out moving forward. Also doing a lot of changing to my programming for this next upcoming block as far as barbell stuff. We kind of discussed that. I don't think it was on the podcast, but just changing out some things to make it a little more focused on the weight loss and the muscle retention and less on the barbell.
Fair enough.
Because I have a really huge focus on the barbell. I'm on the barbell 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
Yep.
I did start doing something though that I really, really enjoy, and I don't know if I sent you the video or not, but Dr. Mike is doing these
lazy clean and jerks.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't call them lazy.
It's like high pull combined with a press, right?
Yeah. So it's more like there's no
body English or anything
exactly.
like that,
It's less of an athletic movement and more strict. And I did it with like the barbell, and then I threw 10s on each side, so it was like 65 pounds. For sets of 15, I think, smoked my shoulders. And I was like, I am doing this. Yep. This is fucking awesome. Doing a lot more side delt stuff. Very good point by Dr. Mike. You get so much front delt out of your pressing that you don't need tons of front delt.
Yeah, I've never programmed a lot of front delt for that reason.
That's why I usually will have front raises, and that's my front delt isolation movement. But because I'm doing like pressing 4 times, like I'm just like, there's no reason. I don't need this anymore.
Yep. I think just maintaining or trying to consistently grow the medial delt has helped my shoulder health.
Yeah.
A lot. Like helped to balance my shoulders and stuff like that. So even with Ron, I do a lot more for side and rear than I do for, he does have me doing front raises currently, but I do a lot more for side and rear.
Right. You're probably not pressing as much though, are you? Frequency.
A true 2 time a week frequency right now. I have an Anderson press and a bench press.
But what about?
And then I have a Smith overhead.
Do you have any accessory, or not accessory? Excuse me. Do you have any accessory pressing like chest press on the machine?
I have dumbbell incline, as well as, like I said, Smith overhead press. There's one more that escapes me. Maybe a floor press.
Okay.
Yep.
So you do have a lot of pressing.
I do have a lot of pressing, so there's no like isolated direct front work,
right.
Front delt work, I should say. Other than right now, I am doing front raises, but those come and go. I think with Ron, out of 6 blocks, I've probably done them for 2.
Right.
So like it's pretty,
just depends on if he sees a need or something.
Or not. Yep. So
which makes sense.
And we've done a lot more on shoulders, to be fair, too, because I haven't been able to train my lats. So
right.
So stands to reason if you lats being a big part of your pressing, your deadlifting and your squat, really, the best thing to do to keep your press going in the right direction is to hammer the absolute shit out of something else while you can't train that. So,
yeah.
I mean, it makes sense. But I am back to pulling now, so it doesn't matter quite so much. But my week was good. High bar squatting, I think I'm also a high bar squatter. I think that didn't really have to tell Ron this. He probably listened to the podcast and gathered it, but I'm comfortable and pain-free in a high bar. Same story as yours for different reasons, but I managed to beat my old 1 rep maximum SSB bar by like 20 some odd pounds.
Yeah.
I think I'm just a better squatter. The weight does feel heavier. It feels more oppressive, but at the same time, it's less pain,
right.
So it's progressible.
Yeah.
We talked about that when we initially talked about moving you over. Like the thing has to be, doesn't really matter which one you're better at if the one you're best at's not progressible, and the other one is. Eventually, it stands to reason that it's gonna surpass and then overtake. Meet and then overtake your old one. So,
and there are a couple benefits too, right? So you get more out of your quads doing high bar. So you get my thoughts are, even though it's kind of like, you can move more weight with your posterior chain on a low bar squat, your quads are going to be fresher, I guess, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Sorry, my brain just shut down. But I feel like you kind of just can potentially get more out of a high bar squat because you're fresher. I don't know. My brain's just stopping. I'm sorry.
Well, there's less to that point, and that's not necessarily what you were talking about, but talking about that, there's less fatigue on my elbows, so my pressing's better. There's less fatigue on my posterior chain, so my deadlifts are better. No. I do have a really strong posterior. However, it seems to me in a squat, the greater the hip hinge is, the worse it bothers my problem areas of my hips. Right. So, just is what it is. Just move on and do the best we can. I'm not mad about it because it's pain-free and it's fun right now. Yeah. So,
and it's not
having
like
a little joy back is important.
That's super important. And it's not like there's not any good high bar squatters. We have some of the best squatters in the world who do high bar.
Yeah, 100%.
So,
I mean, not particularly. I mean, you talked about it before we started recording, but me and you weren't winning. I'm not going to win a meet, but me and you weren't going to win a meet on our squat.
Yeah.
Like our meet really starts when we have done our first bench press. I mean,
let me just because you said that, I saw a picture on Facebook and it basically said you get your total with your squat and you win your meet with your deadlift and your bench presses rest in between.
I think that's sounds like something a natty posted.
What's really funny is someone
that's just not true for somebody, including professionals.
Yeah,
like, I mean,
John Hack.
I mean,
wins every meet.
Yeah, I mean, arguably he's maybe the best well-rounded in all three now.
Yeah,
but after his squats come up,
right,
like significantly over the years.
But he was winning meets with a 700-pound squat.
Yeah, I mean, regularly.
Yeah,
I mean, all these big sumo guys. Although I think Dan's coming on with his squat, pretty big. I mean, these guys that are sumo deadlifting 1,000 plus are not world record holder squatters.
No,
I mean, I don't know. I'm just not worried about it. It's whatever keeps me in the sport longest, dude. I don't really give a fuck. You know what I mean?
I just thought it was funny. And one of the comments I saw was
my goals are to be the strongest dad on the sideline and to be a better, more well-rounded coach.
Yeah.
So.
The funniest thing to me was one guy that commented on it, and it was an older gentleman. I think he was 45. I can't remember what he said, but someone replied and said this is just nonsense, basically. And he said, sounds like something a bench only guy would say. And then I looked at his open powerlifting because I was like, if he's commenting on this, he's got to have an open powerlifting. And his best bench press is 370 raw and 405 in a suit. He's got like a 600-pound squat raw, or the 580 squat raw, and like a 600 something pound deadlift raw. And I was like, okay, guy. So you're just agreeing with it because that's you. And you're not. I mean, he had like a 480 dots or something like that, so not terrible, right? Because he was fairly small for that, but it's just kind of like you're agreeing with it because it's you, not because it's true. So there's plenty of guys who would beat you that would squat the same as you, but they just outbench and deadlift you.
Listen, man. I mean, I think it's easy to. It is. We talked about it. Can be one of the more boring to watch because it's hard to get a good camera angle on bench press and stuff. But like, it's a 3-lift total for a reason, and you get your total however you can get your total. Mm-hmm. I think it's bad advice to tell people
that your bench press doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean it's bad. What if they're genetically really gifted at bench press and they're just not there yet?
Right.
I mean, when I got you, your best press was 295.
Yep.
Like, you have to, some ability as a coach to be like, he's not there yet, but he very much fucking could be.
Right.
Like, you have to, you gotta have to be like,
295 at 180 is pretty good.
It's a good bench press. Like, yeah, it really,
especially natty.
It really is. But, you're not talking about a 2 times body weight bench press that you're talking about now.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think you make your total however you have, that person has to make their total.
Yeah. 100%.
I think that there's a lot of, there's a lot of fucking just
Bullshit.
fucking bullshit and just mental masturbation online about everything. But I mean, lifting, like people put in hot takes about lifting all the time. Like there's this guy who some of his advice is really fucking good. There's this British dude. Have you seen him? That's like anti-compound movement, and he's always talking about how when I talk about compounds, I really mean squat, bench, deadlift. How shit it is for this and how shit it is for that. And I'm like, and he's a big dude. And I was like, yeah, there's probably, like, I don't believe bench press is the best way to grow your chest.
Right.
Be hard pressed to talk me out of saying squat's the best way not the best way to grow your legs, because I think it is. I think a belt squat could be better than a barbell squat.
Right. But the squatting motion
but that motion itself, yeah. I mean, even if you're talking about like a deep leg press, like it still counts, right?
It's still
hack squat, maybe arguably easiest to load up, easiest to kind of push yourself and be heavy on, like. But some type of squat variation, right? I could definitely agree about that. Even with the bench press comment, maybe not straight bar bench pressing, but some type of pressing motion is still to me the best. And then deadlift, you just get so much total growth aspect of it. It's hard to argue with. It's hard to argue with the efficacy of a deadlift.
Right.
But so many people are like, watch people like this, and then like, I talked about this at length before. But like, kids come up to me in the gym, they see me coaching. I mean, I have so many people in the afternoon. There's more of my direct clients in the gym in the afternoon than there are other people. So they see me coaching all these big guys, whether it be you or Austin or KJ or Mason or whoever it may be. And they're like, hey man, I want to grow like that. I want to look like that. And it's like, cool. This is what you need. You need to, squat, bench, deadlift, row, pull up. You need to dip. You need to, you need to do the hard. You need to do some lunges. You need to do the hard things. They're like, instantly get the list of
I can't do that.
I can't, or a list of, well, this influencer said, it's like, that's fine. Like, my guys will just continue to be bigger and stronger and better looking than you. That's all there is to it. Like, I mean, I'm actually looking to call it a scholarship for business purposes, but I'm actually looking to take on a bodybuilding client to help build my resume.
Yeah.
And I talked to a kid about it, and he was very, like, fucking snotty about it, and, like, everything else was very, like, kind of off-put by the conversation. I wasn't going to charge him anything. Like I said, it's like, I need it for my resume. I was upfront about that. I was like, I can't help you with posing. I can do the diet. I can do the programming. I can do all that stuff. Like, I will give you this. I think you be a good investment for me and vice versa. And he was like, just so, like, off-put that I was like, this is the thing. You're in here asking me advice all the time.
Right.
Like, I didn't come to you in a whim. I just didn't pay any money mo and pick somebody out of the crowd. Like, you're somebody that I talk to regularly.
Right.
Like, what's the deal? Like, and the deal is you don't actually want to relinquish the control that you think that you have over your own programming. Like, all these things that suck. Like, he was talking to me one day about his leg sucking. It's like, he does literally hack squat, extension, curl, goes and hits shoulders.
Once a week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's your legs are thin because
you
train
do
for
anything.
thin legs.
Yeah.
Like, you don't do fucking shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, like, I don't know. It's just weird. But you just have all this bad information and people just fucking take it and run with it. And it's not even that my information is all that much better, but like, I think that they'd be surprised by like these people that they follow and watch if they actually got quality, if that person was actually capable of giving them quality programming, what their workout day might actually look like.
Right.
Like, probably be a lot tougher than what they're currently doing. Like,
yeah,
I believe in doing the hard things, man. I think it puts muscle on you.
Yep.
Like,
I mean, it has to, right? It's central nervous system, like your central nervous system gets attacked. So it's like, I gotta grow now.
And I understand this to some. In bodybuilding, you have a lot more freedom to auto-regulate. Like, it doesn't have to be heavy all the time. You can kind of adjust load based on feel day to day. Whereas us in powerlifting, the better we get, the more we do that. You'd probably agree with that from your experience with Joe and stuff like that. But, like, for the most part, we have a point A that we're starting at, and we have a hard point B that we have to get to, and we have a certain amount of time to do it. Yeah. They have physique goals they're chasing, so they're chasing a pump. However, we'll hold to the end of my fucking life, to the end of the fucking time, that if you're not consistently chasing the weight that's on the machine or on the barbell, you're not going to grow the way you want to.
Yeah.
You might not ever hit, less than a set of 8, and that's fine. But like, if you can push 315 for 8, you need to start working on pushing 325 for 8.
Right.
Like, I mean, it has to be like,
there has to be some amount of progressive
stimulus.
overload.
We talk about time can change, weight can change, variation can change, all these things can change, but something has to fucking change all the time. And when you've run down the list of everything else that you can change and weight hasn't changed yet, it's time to change. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's the last thing it should change, but it should absolutely be chased.
Right.
100%.
Yeah.
And I don't see enough people that are physique-minded tracking their workout, constantly trying to say, I pushed 20 leg presses last week at 405. I don't want to be here for 3 sets of that, so I'm going to put 455 on there and try to crank out 15. You know what I mean? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't see enough, I don't see enough of that happening. I really don't.
Yeah.
It's like just list lazily through it. By God, they get a fucking hard dick for bench press day, though.
Yeah.
They'll argue with you all day long that squat doesn't grow my legs. I don't want to do that. It hurts. Yada, yada, yada. Deadlift doesn't grow my back. It hurts. Yada, yada, yada. Like, bench press, we know is not the best thing for growing a chest, but they never fucking miss it.
Oh, yeah.
Never fucking miss it.
Man, that's the standard lift, bro.
Yeah, I'm just fucking
like, everybody bench presses.
talking about pull-ups. I just don't get a good pump from pull-ups. Great. Fucking weight them.
Yep.
Like,
Slow them down.
I'm glad you're good. Slow them down. Like
slow them down on that eccentric. You'll feel it.
If you'll weight your pull-ups, you'll never have to do those wrist curls at the end of your workout again. like fucking pick up something heavy and carry it, or go do pull-ups fucking with a little bit of weight or a little bit of tempo, and tell me how your grip feels.
Right.
Stop putting straps on the goddamn lat pull down machine. Like, if you want to do some bent over rows or some deadlifts and straps, all for it. Go for it, man. Like, not gonna bust your balls about it, especially if you're not powerlifting. Right? But you don't really have to put straps on the fucking lat pull down.
No.
Like,
I do sometimes.
Like, yeah, but like we're trying to maintenance and try to
things.
We're also trying to take care of our hands to an extent. Like,
right.
They're not touching that deadlift bar. They don't have a reason to protect themselves from a hand tear or something like that. Just try. That's what you'd be surprised at how much effort. Like, even if you wanted your workout to stay the same, like,
just put more effort into it.
Just try harder. Like, you might be surprised.
Yeah.
Nobody works out the way they think they work out.
Oh no. There are very few people who have that that ability to really gauge how hard they're pushing.
I returned your lecture about diet with a lecture of my own
of training.
Talking about training
hard.
Anyway, squats were good, bench press was good, deadlift was good, training week was fine. Try harder. But I mean, do you not feel like the effort's the biggest thing that's missing for most people?
Yeah. Most people, they don't put enough effort in the gym. Like, anyone could go in there with a program created by God and
find a way to fuck that program up.
Yeah, because they just didn't. They're like, this is literally the most anabolic, perfect program ever, and see no gains because they don't try hard enough. Because they don't know what RP 8, 9, and 10 looks like.
Do you feel like there's not enough people? Another thing, talking about manipulating weights, there's not enough people that manipulate time. And I'm not talking about in the tempo sense. Tempo, we've talked about 1,000 times.
Rest times,
stuff like that.
Yeah, most people are just like fucking around until they get done talking with their buddies, and then they go back.
Dude, I bet I could just about. You cannot believe what time parameters instead of rep parameters will do to somebody on a machine, like accessory work or something like that. Like 4 sets of 30 seconds on leg extension instead of a rep count. Yeah. Unbelievable pump. A Tabata timer, like anything like that. Like, now Tabata, me and you discussed this at length some time ago. There's a sweet spot. Like, you need enough weight where you're only really pushing like 7 to 10 reps around. If you're pushing 10 to 15 reps around, it's too goddamn lot, and you're really not getting the response that I need, like the hypertrophic response I want out of it. But like, if you're consistently, I would say, you need to be in a range where you're getting 70 to 90 reps total during your Tabata. Unbelievable growth, unbelievable pump. Like, you get some cardiovascular benefits from it, and that, I mean, it really, really helps with fucking with resting heart rate, and it helps with cholesterol. It helps with a lot of things.
Yeah.
Like really, really good health markers and a ton of growth from it. Like there's not enough people, and then even more still, taking it one step further, manipulating rest time. Too many people like fucking 5 minutes between rests when they say they're bodybuilders. Like,
Right. It's like, no, dude, you got to be in there every
5 minutes rest is what I take between
one
a heavy
rep
set of
maxes.
deadlifts. You know what I mean? Like that's different. When I'm on the lat pull down, I'm not sitting on the fucking machine for 20 minutes for 4 sets.
No, it's gonna
Like,
be.
matter of fact, as
60
soon as
to-
I'm not breathing hard, I'm doing my next set.
Right.
Like
Dr. Mike's prescription is when you're not tired, like when you feel like you can do another set,
when you got some blood back in it, you're not tired. Like
like your
that
breathing
initial
is
pump kind of goes
normal.
away a little
Yeah.
bit. Like it's time to start fucking pulling again. Like,
I usually say anywhere between 60 seconds and 2 minutes.
yeah, I mean, but even still, like there's overreaching principles you can apply to bodybuilding too, where rest times can be as short, like Tabata timer as short as 10 seconds. But like 30 to 45, perfectly fine. Like, the myo reps would be a good example of
Yeah.
minimal rest, shit like that fucking works. Like very few, it's also a really cheap way to get volume up without actually spending more time in the gym.
Yeah.
Like disappointed in how few people try to manipulate those kinds of things.
No, a lot of people probably don't even know. Let's be honest. Like, there's only like
There's X amount of time that's spent in the gym though that will, even if you're not like actively doing it on the timer, if you're a dedicated person showing up, and a lot of these people I'm talking about are showing up and they're just not seeing changes because they never change.
Right.
They never change what they're doing. You know the pump's a little bit better if you get on it and like if
Yeah.
you move through your workout a little bit quicker.
right.
If you try to have a little bit more intensity, if you try to do
Yeah.
a little bit more weight, stuff like that, these kind of things,
But then it hurts.
then it hurts. Yep.
So why would I do that? It hurts.
They confuse pump pain for real pain.
Yeah.
Like,
Like, oh man, that's too much. I can't do that. It's like,
Yep.
no, you can.
yep, you
Like,
won't.
we're actually here for the pump pain. Like that's why we're here.
Yeah, that's.
If you're not here for that, you must be a runner or something. Like I don't know what to tell you.
I mean,
If you're here to get big, like you want to hurt a little bit.
yeah.
It doesn't have to be.
We're not talking about fucking chronic pain.
No,
like,
we're talking about like my muscles are contracting hard.
your legs
They
are shaking
hurt.
on your way to the car.
Yeah.
Like that kind of shit. Like we're not talking about injured.
Yeah. Like, it is true though. Some people just don't know the difference. Some people just know that it hurts bad.
Yeah. The number one complaint as a trainer, lower back pain.
Yep.
They haven't used their lower back. It's got a fucking pump.
Yep.
Like, yeah, your back's stiff. 100% gonna be.
Right.
You've never used those muscles before.
Right.
It'll go away in a couple of weeks. It'll be harder and harder to have that feeling, unless you have some issues like you've had in squat
Right.
or something like that, some type of chronic issues. Yeah, it's not you didn't slip a disc. You just used your back.
Right.
Like, big revelation here. There's muscles there too.
Yeah.
I mean, I know the fucking difference.
Right.
I've felt the difference before. So,
Last time I got an X-ray, it was like one of my discs was worn down pretty low, so that's why it hurts sometimes. I think.
Yeah.
So there's just not as much disc left.
Makes sense. I mean, it happens. Doing what we do. What PR songs do you got this week? Because I actually got some fucking good ones.
Oh man, let's see. I know I saved a couple from today. I think I got at least one new one. This isn't new. I think it was 2019. But it's a song called Legion by the band Sovereign. And it's about, if you know Sovereign from Mass Effect, it's one of the big Reapers. Very cool song, very heavy, and it's got some quotes from Sovereign, and it's really cool.
Oh yeah. My first one up is a band called Crown Magneter, and it's a song called Barbed Wire Noose off a new EP they just released, and it's fucking awesome.
Sounds pretty brutal.
It's fucking brutal. Go listen to it.
I kind of feel like I've put this on here before, but Corpse Throne by Organectomy, that's really good.
Organectomy's dope.
They're one of my favorite new, well, when I say new, I mean time frame new, but new death metal bands. Like they're killer.
This is all me being an absolute slut for Soundbite. I love sound clips and heavy music for some reason. But Pit of Misery by Get the Shot is fucking cool.
Word.
Listen to it.
Listen to it.
Fucking listen to it.
Listen to it.
Meat and potatoes of this show. This is a listener request, and a lot of this stuff is stuff that we've covered before, but we're talking about injuries, bad ones, what to do initially, what to do, not so initially in the meantime, and then, ultimately how to rehab and potentially come back from it. So,
Right, so the first thing you want to do when you get really, really hurt is put a lot of load on it.
just to see how hurt you are.
Just make sure it's actually injured. Clearly, if you can't
ironically,
tell.
I have been that guy before. Man, that really fucking hurt. Let's load up 600.
let's make sure that
let's just make sure that I'm just not just I wish I hadn't been that guy, but I've been that guy before.
I mean, when it comes to nagging stuff, sometimes I will be that guy. I'll be like when I'm bench pressing, because I've had pec problems previously.
Yep.
Sometimes I'll feel something a little twangy, and I'll be like, is this because I'm not warm enough, or is this actually something that's going to be a problem?
Yeah, definitely like chronic pain. I will definitely I might just.
It's kind
I'm
of
not
like,
there yet. I experienced that Saturday on deadlifts.
Yeah.
Like, been having some elbow pain when I deadlift some. I'm like, this kind of fucking sucks.
Yeah.
I can't really tell if it's bicep or in my forearm or something. Talked about it with Ron. I was like, yeah, by the time I pulled 3 reds, it was like, I'm fine.
It's fine,
Like, yeah. And then really what it ended up being, I think what ended up being my grip was deconditioned because I haven't been able to train deadlifts or back.
Right.
So that first week was brutal. Yesterday was fucking easy.
Yeah.
Like, this is what it is. Stuff like that, you got to know a little bit of the difference.
Yeah.
If it hurts real bad or happens like acutely in the set,
Yep.
the first thing you should do is fucking quit.
Yeah. Just
Like,
stop.
Have the spotters grab it, rack it. If you're able to unload it, and take your ass to the emergency room to get it imaged.
Yeah. If it's something that feels incredibly serious, if it feels like a strain or something, probably don't have to get it imaged, depending on the severity, obviously.
Other than probably back-related things, 99 times out of 100 with a power lifter, it's going to be some type of muscle strain.
Yeah.
The bummer about that, and I'll go ahead and tell you, you should absolutely quit. You should absolutely go to the emergency room to see what's happening, okay? The bummer about that is they are going to image it first with an x-ray, and x-rays don't tell you shit about muscle.
Right.
Like, they don't. So unless it's something in your back, a disc or something like that, or some freak accident like we saw on bench press this week, like
that's
basically a
Sir Dave.
micro fracture that has turned into a compound fracture, something like that. Most of the time it's going to be muscular and they're not going to be able to tell you shit. What they can do is give you a local atoradol and a local of a steroid and get some inflammation out of it immediately. I would turn down narcotics personally. I wouldn't do painkillers. The Toradol is a local painkiller. It'll do fine. Don't be a pussy. I mean, but I've also lived through this several times. So opiates are muscle wasting. Yeah. They're also addictive. They're very, very serious. I would say if you feel like you can turn them down, the Toradol and the steroid shot's the way to go.
I do want to comment very briefly on Sir Dave's injury. That is probably a direct result of him going prep to prep to prep. Not giving himself time to heal those microfractures in his bones and stuff. So
yeah, because the same things that happen to your muscles when you're lifting weights happen to your bone.
Mm-hmm. That's why we talk about bone density, being one of the biggest plus sides of compound movements. So you do have to let those heal.
You do actually live with microfractures all the time if you're a lifter.
Yeah,
they're not things that you're going to notice.
Mm-hmm.
You might notice in your forearm, like after a bench press day or if you're a strong man, like a carry day, like the bones almost sort of touch.
Yeah.
But that's probably the only place on your body thin enough.
Mm-hmm.
If you're a runner, you may experience in your shins, although there's a muscle there that causes shin splints.
Right.
But you do get micro fractures in your shins and stuff too. Like that, so it might be sort of touch. But other than that, you're not going to tell that you have these micro fractures in your bones, but you do.
Right. So just be careful and when we talked about a perfect powerlifting structure, we talked about for one-time frequency of competing
per year.
2 times, very, very reasonable. 3 times is pushing it. any more than 3 times is dangerous, as we saw with Sir Dave, because he did nationals. He did another prep. And the biggest thing is that he is a very, very strong man.
Yeah.
So when you're dealing with heavier and heavier weights, it becomes more and more dangerous to do prep to prep to prep. Oh. So he did nationals. He did another meet after that. And then he was prepping for the ABS Pro. And that's when it happened. So
I would be willing to bet that he didn't have to have an X-ray to tell him his arm was broken.
No, but he did post an X-ray.
He did post an X-ray.
regardless.
They're going to have to X-ray it to find out. But by and large, back to my original comment, unless it's something in your back, slip disc, something like that, 99 times out of 100, probably going to be something muscular.
Yep.
Not going to be found out. Well, what they are going to do is they're going to refer you to an ortho, likely, or they're going to hopefully. So you can have this in hand when you go to your ortho and you don't have to make an extra stop. They're going to refer you to additional imaging in the form of an MRI. I've had sonography done too, but the thing most beneficial is going to be an MRI. The MRI will tell the doctors exactly what's wrong, how you did it. Stuff, even chronic stuff like tendonitis and stuff shows up on MRI. So like they're going to be able to tell you what's going on. If you have, ligament damage, which is connective tissue bone to bone, they may have to do X-ray with dye. I had a torn labrum in my hip. Had to get the contrast dye put in. They do an X-ray that way. But by and large, if it's muscular, they're probably going to have you do the MRI. You'll go to an ortho after that. The ortho is going to tell you to what degree you did it and immediately give you recommendations in terms of limitations in the gym, what you can and cannot do.
And probably give you a rehab protocol.
Yeah. Well, they're going to refer you to a PT, which is what's next.
Well,
depending on the degree of the strain, you have 3 degrees. One is it's painful, no visible bruising. Grade 1 is definitely the preference. You'll be back 4 to 5, 6 weeks, depending on the recommendation. Realistically, you'll be moving something in 4 weeks, depending on how stubborn you are and how much you can deal with pain. You need to get blood in it.
And peptides that you can use.
And peptides and stuff. We'll get to that here in a little bit. But more than likely, they're going to refer you to a PT for a grade 1. Grade 2 is a little bit more serious. It's visible bruising, but no complete separation. They are definitely going to send you to PT for that. And the wait is much, much longer. It's probably going to be 8+ weeks.
If I'm not mistaken, there's a percentage that they base it off of how much muscle is torn, right?
Correct, yeah.
I want to say it's under 30% for a grade 1, right?
Maybe. I don't know.
And then it was like 30 to 70% was a grade 2.
That makes sense because of the degree of bruising and stuff. And if it's a grade 3, it's surgery required, and you're probably not going to PT for some time.
Yeah.
They're going to have to reattach something. See that most common with biceps, with powerlifters. Pecs too is probably the next biggest thing. If you're a hybrid athlete, hamstrings could be an issue. Hamstring separation is a very hard thing to recover from. See that more in people that are playing sports and powerlifting, so think football players, sprinters, stuff like that. And you see it a little bit more in strongmen because so much of their work is posterior driven.
Right. Loaded carries,
deadlifts, and they may have, stones, stuff like that. Even the Husafelt stone, which is, you still have to pick it and carry it. That initial pick is really, really hard on your posterior. Stuff like that. Not saying it doesn't happen in powerlifting, but it seems to be a little bit more common in other strength sports. And then in hybrid athletes. But yeah, they're going to refer you to a PT. At that point, the PT is going to give you a better idea of total recovery time. And they're also going to give you exercises to start getting blood in the area because movement is medicine and PTs know that. They're going to start working you through a full range of motion, and that doesn't mean that you're going to go to full range of motion the first time you're in PT, but it does mean that they're going to start stressing you in a way that is going to challenge your current range of motion.
It's going to be uncomfortable.
In hopes that you return to a full range of motion eventually.
Which, if it's grade 1, very, very...
Yeah, probably a reasonable amount of time, to be honest with you.
Grade 2 will take longer, but realistically, you should still be able to get to a full range of motion on a grade 2.
Yeah, absolutely. I have and did that.
Grade 3...
the same thing's going to happen post-surgery. You're going to go to a PT, and they're going to start working you through the same.
Right.
Same
Just going
things.
to be a little more questionable on the full range of motion, depending on how it healed. Age is a big thing. If you're younger, you're more likely to be able to recover from it.
Sure.
Like I'd say like closer to 100%, whereas older, middle-aged, elderly starts getting a little hairier.
PT is also important because as I've learned about my own hip situation, I did have a major injury that I did not rehab. I had a grade 2 in a groin and an abdominal at the same time that I did not go to rehab for, that ultimately led to all of my present hip problems, including the torn labrum. Basically what happened is it set up a bunch of arthritis that it wouldn't have set up had I moved it correctly sooner. And now I'm looking at having to have a hip scope. So it's one of those things. You do your rehab as you're told. And that's all there is to it. It's also at this point, long before we're at this point, you should have communicated this with your coach by now.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean you're done powerlifting. Doesn't mean you're done in the gym. It just means the gym's going to look different. Of the things, I've had a couple injuries that change everything. The groin really didn't affect upper body whatsoever. This lat this time, even though it was less bad of an injury, did affect pretty much everything in the gym with the exception of squat.
Yeah.
If I was in a phase where I was having to squat heavier, it probably would have been worse.
And also if you were on a straight bar.
Yeah. And surprisingly enough, it didn't affect bench press to the extent that I thought it would.
Right.
Getting up and down from the bench was more problematic than anything. And the initial unrack was pretty bad. But again, this is at a grade 1. But anyway, you're going to go to rehab. Rehab's going to address getting that muscle better, but they're also going to start addressing the why it happened. So they're going to address things like, for me and my hips, we discovered I had weak glute medius. You're going to start addressing things around the injury that could make you better, essentially. Keep it from happening. Preventative medicine and stuff like that is going to start getting discussed. And you're going to do PT drills on all of those muscle groups too. So at that point, though, they're going to give you a list of exercises that you can start trying to go through on your own. And I'm sure there's steps in this process I'm missing. But just as somebody that has been through it several times, I'm trying to think of everything that that we do. And then, the extent of the injury is going to determine how long you're in physical therapy for.
Right.
So, but they're going to encourage you to try to do those PT exercises a few more times a week than what you're with them. If you're with them a couple days a week, they're probably going to want you to do it a couple days at least on your own to try to do that. They're also probably, depending on the extent of the injury, they're also going to tell you not just customizing training around the injury, but they're probably going to start trying to encourage you to use it, if not just in the exercises they prescribe. They're probably going to start encouraging, if you have a lower body injury, they might start encouraging you to squat to a box, a limited range of motion. They might try to, they might clear you for machine work. They might do things like that. So it's not just like completely fucking doom and gloom.
Right.
It's not like, you have a hip injury, so your lower body's going to go untrained.
Right.
You can still sit down on a leg extension. You can still sit down on a hamstring curl. You may even get to squat to a shortened range of motion.
Right.
But they're going to start encouraging some stuff like that because, again, they know movement is medicine. They're going to want to, return you that as much as possible. At that point, when all of that is done, they're going to release you and they're going to be like, you're good to go. You're probably not good to go. Being realistic, your return to the barbell should be slow and progress. I know with a conversation me and Ron had about the lat, we went 2 weeks beyond my clear date before he started actively programming stuff for my lats again. So getting you comfortable with doing those movements again, stuff like that's necessary, but that's also part of what your PT exercises are for. They're there to help you progress and stuff like that.
Right.
The biggest thing to overcome is probably fear.
Yeah. Fear of
A lot of times in my experience, I have physically come back better from rehab than I was going in. Not just because of the injury, but because I've strengthened things I hadn't thought of, because I've added some exercises I haven't thought of. Most of the time I'm better. But mentally, it's incredibly daunting to know, hey, I fucked myself up with this weight In 3 weeks, I get to see this weight again.
Yep.
Like, it's a constant battle of, am I going to fuck myself up again?
Yep.
So positive self-talk, maybe you don't like it, but it does work. Affirmations, things like that work. Just being sure that it's not going to happen again. Deliberate movement. Not doing stupid stuff. Being mindful of what you learned in rehab.
Yep.
Being mindful of the things that your coach is telling you. Being honest and open with your coach. Hey, I feel like we're not doing enough. Hey, I feel like we're doing too much. This is just right, whatever it may be. This is fine, but, whatever. I'm still feeling pain here, and here. Whatever it may be, open and honest communication is super fucking important at that point.
Because if you don't tell them, they don't know, and they're going to assume everything's fine. And if they assume everything's fine, they're going to assume it's progressible.
It doesn't matter how good the coach is. Coaches can't protect you from things they don't know.
They might see something and say, hey, you looked a little, like they might see a wince in your face and say, hey, what's going on?
Yeah, but that's the best we get.
Right, exactly. Like if there's no verbal communication.
If you glance over that and say, there's no big deal, let's push forward, and then you end up fucking yourself up again because you wasn't honest and you basically lied, that's on you at that point. It's not your fucking coach. Don't want to hear any of the, it's my coach's fault.
Right.
I had this, and this wrong with me, and he just ignored it. No, the fuck he didn't.
You just didn't tell him.
You didn't fucking tell him. That's the truth.
I mean, there are very, very, very few coaches that would ever, like, I'm talking like you'd have to have somebody very inexperienced who would just be like, oh, you just got hurt and now you're feeling pain again when you do this movement? Just quit being a pussy.
No, nobody's going to do that to you.
It'd have to be someone who literally has no idea what you're doing. And at that point, you should fire that coach.
Yeah. Very, very rare, though. Coaches need to know how you feel. And I'm to the point now that, like, if anything's wrong, I tell Ron.
Yeah.
If it might get on his nerves, I don't fucking care. And I bet long term he doesn't fucking care if it gets, I had an instance with, like I told you, deadlifts, week 1, returning to deadlifts were very uncomfortable. Had some weird pulls in my forearms, up into my bicep, especially with a mixed grip. Was scared I was going to have a tear. Made it through my workout. Communicated that with him. It come around this week. I was able to finish my workout fine. It came around this week. I was worried again that it might happen. Warmed up. It was fine. Yeah. But I communicated that with him. So if he, if something happened yesterday, deadlifting, if I had to cut it short, if I had to ask for, a scale, an exercise change, whatever it may be, he was aware and prepared for some type of answer. Ended up being fine, but you don't know that it's going to end up being fine.
Right.
So open and honest communication is pretty much key. So I mean that's the long and short of like acute injuries and stuff in the gym and how I would handle them. I do believe movement is medicine. I think you should get in and move as much as possible. The listener that submitted this is Kevin, and Kevin may not care. I don't think he cares about me talking about the situation, but Kevin is a gunshot victim. It was an accidental thing, but anyway, got shot in the crotch, fucked him up real bad, has had problems returning to work, has had problems in the gym, strength's an issue, and a lot of it has to do with nerve damage. Like the actual wound itself is better. Like he's fine with it, but nerves grow back really, really slowly, and that's a problem. I personally don't have enough experience with this, although I've done it. Helped with one gunshot victim before. He was hitting the tricep though. It was not a lower body injury. And it was also ironically not an accident. And I've dealt with it in somebody else that had it from back pain, nerve damage from back pain, basically. If it's something like that, things get a little bit more complicated. Rehab is definitely still part of the protocol. Some prehab can help. If it's something like spinal, chiropractic adjustments could help. They could also hurt. Certain movements may help or hurt. It becomes a little bit more harder to chase, I would say. So much so that I'm not super confident in talking about.
Right.
Super confident in talking about this. I'll tell you what I do know, and I think Nathan would agree, is something I've said several times already, is that movement is medicine. Nerves grow and repair at about the rate of about 1 millimeter a day. So that's incredibly slow. Like a millimeter is like not shit.
Right.
Like
It's nothing.
can't see it on the camera. Probably,
Yeah.
you know, it looks like my fingers are together. But I do know that blood flow helps. So moving it, using it is going to help. Barring something going on in your back, like I spoke of, like certain movements could hurt you. You know, if it pinches things up more, especially loaded, you know, anything that has an axial load that could compress that nerve more, could definitely hurt it. And so it's the nature of your injury, and you need to talk to somebody about it.
Yeah.
Right. Period. I'm about to start working with somebody that has cervical spine issues, and that's the reason for his. So there's going to be some movements we can and can't do. Some of it's going to be, we just got to figure it out. And some of it's going to have to be supplementation, which is kind of what I'm about to get into. As a personal trainer and not a PT, I only know what I know. I'm not a doctor. I can only help as much as I can. And I really try to do that within the PT's okay. You know what I mean? Like, PT has cleared us for this, this, and this, and this. This is what we're going to do. I mean, I'm not here to diagnose or treat. The only thing I can do is carry on. You know, that's something else that somebody else does. Personally, not professionally, if I were in that situation, I would look at things like TB 500, specifically over BPC 157 does accelerate regrowth and repair of your nervous system, basically. So I would start with supplementing that.
Yeah.
Secondly, I would supplement anything that increases blood flow, things like arginine. Help me out here. Even like pump formulas, citrulline, stuff like that. Anything that's going to be a vasodilator,
Right.
I would consider. And you're thinking veins aren't nerves. They're not, but more blood flow to the area will promote growth. That's what blood does. That's you know, part of what we're doing. It repairs and it carries nutrients, but it also repairs areas.
Right.
So, you know, I would look at stuff like that, but top of my list would be TB 500. Whether you know it or not, some amount of nerve damage happens with every injury that you encounter. The problem with really bad nerve damage, like we're talking about, is because those nerves aren't firing and sending a signal to your CNS anymore. It causes much muscular atrophy. It basically causes it to basically shut down that area. It doesn't fire correctly. You know, if you have nerve damage, you know, can't move your fingers well. You don't feel things. You might have like electrical pain, stuff like that. I mean, all these kind of things happen, and you're definitely for sure weaker. And that's just because your body doesn't know to fucking send a signal there to fire all these muscles that, because those muscles aren't firing, they're not getting worked. Stuff like that. So it's a very, very slippery slope. Don't feel super confident talking about it, to be honest with you. But I would say, you know, the way I would address it and the way the other gunshot victim, Ethan, addressed it was just do what he could, as much as he could. The good thing about nerve damage is it's not really a good thing at all. I shouldn't say that. But the benefit of that is it's probably not going to hurt you to move if you're within loads that you can handle. You know what I mean? So I say meet yourself where you are, do what you can, and probably do a lot of it.
Yeah. If
it is spinal related that caused this nerve damage, I would probably avoid things that have an axial load, like I said.
Yeah.
So instead of a back squat, barbell squat, leg press, not barbell squat, belt squat, leg press, something like that. Probably don't need to be deadlifting. Again, though, probably depends on the nature of the injury.
Yep.
Even bench press with one person in particular, her setup is what was causing that problem to get worse. So she couldn't do the big, you know, girls do it more often than men do. She couldn't do the big powerlifting arch, stuff like that, because it made the problem worse. So she was reduced to, you know, things like Larson press, machine pressing, stuff like that. That's one of those things that hopefully you've done your due diligence and you've gone to a PT and you have a real diagnosis. If you're flying by the seat of your pants, it's super fucking hard to say, but this is where a PT would really help to guide us into what in the cans and can'ts and what we can and cannot do. So if you're in this situation, hopefully you've had some type of guidance from the PT, so I can communicate directly with them or communicate through you to them what we can and cannot do.
Right.
So.
And I keep going back to just thinking about Joe and the nerve damage in his hand and how he approached it. I don't know specifics, and I'd really be interested to find out if we can get him on the show again. We'll have to ask him as part of the interview what approaches he took for that. Then we can shout out to that again.
Using it has to be one of the best ways.
When he went to the doctor, everyone knows that squat video of the bar bending around his back. When he went to the doctor, they told him he would never powerlift again. Straight up, like, you just can't do this anymore because of the nerve damage. He broke an all-time world record after that in squats, so he can do it.
Yeah.
He never got back his full bench press power.
You do have to take some of that. What doctors tell you with a grain of salt is, I mean, unfortunately, the way the American healthcare system works, their primary goal is to not get sued.
Yep.
Their secondary goal is to treat you.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're going to get some health.
Let me.
You're going to get some hellfire and brimstone from your doctors.
First one is not get sued. Second one is make money.
The third one is to treat you.
Let's be real here.
Don't keep your money, get more money, then treat you. So you do have to be, you do have to take things with a grain of salt. People rehab for much, much worse than what we're talking about out here. I mean, you have people that powerlift on one fucking leg.
Yeah.
You'll get over it. you know what I mean? Like,
genuinely.
I mean, it's a level of want to too. If you want to return to powerlifting, you're gonna have to fucking move it. Mm-hmm. You're gonna have to rehab it. You're gonna have to do it as diligently and as correctly as you possibly can. There has to be a point of, I've been hurt so many times. I fight some type of fear every time I'm in the gym. Mm-hmm. It's part of not being a fucking coward.
Yeah.
Be a man. Talk to somebody. Like, I have told Ron, I've been like, I'm scared of this today. Mm-hmm. Like, it's okay. Being scared is fine. It's whether or not you let it beat you. Exactly. You know what I mean? You should be honestly, if you're growing and you're challenging yourself and you want to be a better lifter, you should be a little scared a couple times a month. Mm-hmm. Sorry. Should be. Whether it's how you feel or whether it's because it's a brand new PR or whatever it may be, you should be in a position when you're like, fuck me, I'm going to get it or I'm going to die trying. Like, I mean,
at least like anxious or, there should be some sort of feeling, some sort of way. Like, just because
we're not talking about ignoring pain. We're talking about ignoring fear.
Right.
Like,
being
pain's a real indicator that something's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, if you're scared, it's okay. Just don't be a pussy. I mean, you have a, if you've been injured, you have a right to be, because it's miserable. The groin and the abdominal in particular, I mean, I couldn't dress myself, couldn't take a dump without it hurting, couldn't fucking do anything. Had a hard time laying down on my back because of that abdominal. I slept sitting up for 3 or 4 days after it happened. Mm-hmm. I tried to sleep sitting up for 3 or 4 days. Couldn't fucking do it.
Right.
Like, I mean, it fucking sucks. And the idea of returning to that, pretty fucking scary.
Right.
Like, having to experience that again. But, like, the best thing you can do for any of these situations is go through the medical chain that exists for a fucking reason. First of all, do what you're told by your doctors and your PT. And then when you're cleared, fucking move it. Mm-hmm. Like, do it. Like, do the damn thing.
Not to say it won't be challenging or that there won't be steps. You have to progress slowly.
There may even be setbacks.
Right.
That happens pretty good bit, like post-surgery. Like, 3 or 4 weeks, no pain, best you've ever felt. This is taken, all of a sudden, my fucking knee hurts again.
Yep.
The fuck did I do to my knee? Did I re-tear it? Did I do this? Did I do that? Like, sucks. But, like, it's not the end of the world. Yep. I had a powerlifter that had 16 knee surgeries. 16. Most of them on one knee. Like, fucking did it anyway.
Right.
And it's one of those things, like, if it's not important enough for you to continue, then maybe you shouldn't continue.
Right. I mean, and that's fine.
I'm not reducing, not making the situation less serious or anything. I mean, it is serious. It's serious if you want to continue. Mm-hmm. It's just as serious if you want to continue. Perhaps even more so. But, like, that's your own, personal decision. But, like, powerlifting is not a requirement. Mm-hmm. Whether or not you can argue with me all you want to about this. Fitness is not a requirement.
Right.
I mean, is a requirement. Powerlifting's not.
Right.
But you're going to have to be fit and capable and able, like, or you're going to die young. Yep. We know that. I mean, so just know that it's not going to, it can't limit you forever unless you plan on dying young.
Right.
So whether you meet those problems and that fear now or meet them later, it's coming. So you need to make, you need to make a decision. But the answer doesn't have to be continue to power lift. It should be stay in the gym.
Right.
Should be the answer. Whatever capacity you stay in the gym to beyond that is up to you, and that's a personal decision. But like, you should remain in the gym.
Yeah.
A lot of these problems get fucking worse when you don't stay in the gym. Like, you see it with them. Everybody knows some old person that's had 10 different surgeries and like, this hurts, that hurts, I just can't move anymore. You would move if you would have kept moving.
Yeah.
That's fact. Like, the best thing for arthritis, you can find it on the arthritis website, the government website or whatever for the Arthritis Association, is fucking exercise.
Yep.
So like, being at a healthy body weight, things like that. Like, the likelihood of an injury like this setting up some arthritis and you dealing with chronic pain for the rest of your life is pretty fucking high. There's a good possibility that happens. It's going to get worse if you sit on your fucking fat ass all the time. If you don't use that arm that you have nerve damage in, you might not ever get feeling back in it.
Right.
Like, and now we're not talking about complete loss of function when I talk about nerve damage. We're not talking about paralysis.
Right.
We're talking about, partial issues. But like, even if it was paralyzed, they're going to put you through all these things in a hope that it comes back. You know what I mean? They're going to make you move it. They're going to make you do all kinds of things. You see people paralyzed from stroke, car wrecks, everything like that. And their whole fucking, you can find this 1,000 places online, their whole process of like relearning how to walk. They don't want to be a fucking vegetable.
Right.
Like, the same way you want your hand to work normally again, like those people want to be able to walk. Like, so another good point about dealing with injuries is count your blessings. Can you walk? Are you still able-bodied? And then if the answer to those things are yes, then you're just going to have to quit being a bitch.
You
don't have to do things me and Nathan's way. But
you know the old wrestler Lex Luger?
Yeah.
80s, I think. He's been in a wheelchair for I don't know how long. He's been working with Diamond Dallas Page, doing the DDP yoga and all the other whatever shit he does. But there's a video of him where he's moving his leg up and he can get his legs all the way up now, as opposed to like, just being confined to the wheelchair. This dude's like 60, 70, I don't know how old, but he's old.
So
he's
actively working on his fitness from a wheelchair.
Still trying to. And he just got inducted to he's getting inducted to the Hall of Fame. And everyone's like, wouldn't it be so cool if he could like physically walk out, after all this rehab and stuff that he's been doing, which he may be able to, I don't know.
Yeah.
But that's just one of those things, like he's so old, but he's still trying every day to get out of that wheelchair.
Yeah. I don't want to reduce people's problems, because the type of injury we're talking about are serious.
Right.
Everybody in his situation wants to be able to do those things and are willing to put in the work to do these things.
Yeah.
So maybe, if you find yourself in this situation, not taking away anything from what happened to you, because, we talked about gunshot victims, we talked about people in car wrecks, we talked about, all these extreme things, and then we talked about just muscle tears and strains and, tendon damage and ligament damage and all this other stuff. Have a little bit of perspective and say, there are people that can't fucking walk that work every day just to walk. Like, your hand's going to be fine.
Right.
It's not that it's not serious. It is. You want it to work again. 100%.
But the difference being, like, are you willing to put in the work to use your hands again?
Yeah.
How badly do you want to use your hands again?
The reason why some people never come back from kind of mundane injury is because, partially because they're scared, but also partially because they lack gratitude. You can step back from an injury and say, this fucking sucks, I'm never doing it again in my life. Or you can step back and say, what am I learning from this? And what situations are other people in that are maybe a lot worse than this? And you can say, oh, I'm gracious that it wasn't as bad as the last time you hurt yourself on bench press was going into regionals. I bet you're glad you didn't break your fucking forearm.
Oh, yeah.
I'm not making light of what happened to Sir Dave, but
Right. Yeah.
like that's a place of gratitude. Thank God
It
It was a minor tweak and not a grade 1, grade 2, or grade 3 strain. Thank God it wasn't a fucking forearm fracture. Thank God it wasn't like. I love Louis saying weak things break because it's fucking true. Louis didn't just say that because weak things break. I mean, they do. Weak things break. But also the wisdom in weak things break is there is some some degree of intelligence and gratitude you have to say, I injured this for a reason. Nerve damage is probably the exception to this. So to the people that are experiencing that, I'm not necessarily talking to you. Breaks, strains, stuff like that's what I'm talking about. If weak things break, what is this showing me? I tore my tricep bench pressing. I didn't, but just an example. Right. I tore my tricep bench pressing. Maybe I need a fucking stronger tricep. Maybe what this has showed me is a hole in my programming. Something is missing.
Or potentially, like in my situation, maybe it's not necessarily that it was weak, but that range of motion that it gets put in, the furthest point, is not trained enough.
Yeah, exactly. But it's a more micro view of what I'm talking about. But his range of motion sucked. He tweaked his chest.
Yep.
Sucks. But what is he going to do different now to address that? Deeper ranges of motion? You can, in the short term, injuries are absolutely a curse. In the long term, though, they can be a blessing. You can come out on top of these things better than you were before. Yep. And it's really hard to have that attitude, especially when it's scary. And like I said, I'm scared because I've hurt myself so many times. I'm scared every time I walk up to a squat bar. From 135 to 500 pounds, I'm scared of every fucking one of them. That doesn't go away. It does. I would say it gets better, but it doesn't go away. In the back of your head, you're always, oh fuck, what if, right? But you can learn from these injuries, especially if they're exclusively gym related ones, and say, what did I do to get fucked up? What did I neglect to get fucked up? And how am I going to change it in the future? Yep. I think modern day people struggle with gratitude at all, and it's very, very hard to be gracious when things are going poorly for you. But the biggest takeaway from this, if you really want to know how you recover from injury, it's taking it as, you got to take it as something you can learn from, and you got to take it with a gracious attitude. So that's the biggest way I've changed from my first major injury to, the most recent things is this is fucking doom and gloom to, okay, I fucked up. Why did I fuck up? Right. That's, it's a big shift change and mindset change. And then if you're experiencing it from a point of gratitude, you're more likely to say, what do I need to change? What do I need to do? And you're more likely to do the work because it's going to make you better. Right. So ironically, out of all the steps we're taking, I think learning to be gracious about it is probably the biggest and most important one.
Probably the most difficult if you're not already that type of person too.
It
is
is
something I try to think about more often than not lately. I'm just trying to think about the things that you can be grateful for. I listen to a podcast, and his thing is whenever he wakes up in the morning, whenever he goes to go to bed, he lists 3 things he's grateful for the day. Like when he woke up, what was he grateful for? When he goes to bed, what was he grateful for? Just 3 things. And I think that's probably pretty important. And I feel like if you could do that, get into the routine of doing that every day, probably live a happier life. Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think there's so many things that could happen to you. You could fuck up your ankle walking to your car, though.
Right.
Life is about the quality of life is about the risks that you take. And the experiences that you have, right?
You could drive to work and get in a horrible car wreck and lose your leg.
You could. God forbid that doesn't happen, but
it's just like you could do anything. Like just
now, all of a
outside.
sudden, if I crash my car on my way home and have to have something amputated, now that grade 2 strain in my groin seems like a lot less of a big deal.
Right.
That's something that you would fucking pray for at that point.
Yeah. God, I wish it
would have just been.
I wish I would have just broken my leg.
Yeah.
I wish I would have just, had some flesh wounds, or
I would have dealt with a rod in this thing to have it back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Whatever it may be. So, it's important, we always talk in extremes on the show. One, because it's kind of funny, and two, because I mean I tend to just be dramatic and extreme in general. But like it really could be a lot worse.
Yeah.
Even if you have the grade 2, which is visible bruising and an immense amount of pain, you can sit back and say, you know what? At least I'm not having to have fucking surgery.
Yeah.
At least I'm not getting this fucking reattached. I'm gonna be okay in 8 weeks. I'm not gonna be great.
Right.
But I'll be back to it. Sounds a hell of a lot better than 6 months.
Yep.
Like, there's like, I think we struggle with gratitude and everything. And it's very, very hard to be kind enough to yourself to have a little grace when it comes to injury and things that you've fucked up. You know what I mean? But like, things could always be worse. So, you know, you need to think about it like that. And you need to be, you know, beyond that, beyond even injury and powerlifting, you need to be gracious for being in it, healthy enough to be in it at all. Mm-hmm. You need to be gracious in losses. You need to be gracious in wins. Like you need to be, you know, because again, it could always be worse. And there's always something to learn from it.
Yeah.
You know, you're going to learn, there's a reason, and I hate this fucking college program, but you heard Nick Saban talk about it his entire career at Alabama, how winning the first one wasn't that hard, but maintaining a level of excellence is super hard because you learn more in loss than you do in victory. Mm-hmm. It's a lot easier to say. And when you've won and you've done it, it's a lot easier to say, there's nothing to fucking change. Mm-hmm. I'm fucking king of the world. Nobody's fucking catching up to me. Yep. This is fucking done. Like, I don't have to try hard anymore. It's a lot easier to have that attitude from a place you're not hungry. There's no reason to be. Like, you've done it.
Yep.
Like, so, you know, being gracious in loss is incredibly important because you learn the most from it. Mm-hmm. And that includes physical ones and, you know, losses on the platform, losses in life, believe it or not. Like, you know, there's a lot to be gracious for. And injury is something you should have, you know, barring something really dramatic, like I mentioned, Kevin being shot, be hard to be gracious for that. I bet that there's aspects of that he is, though. Mm-hmm. He's a very, very good man and a very intelligent and wise man. So I bet there's things that he's grateful for. But I mean, like, you know,
think about like,
but when we're talking about these fucking piss on fucking menial things, like a fucking, even something as extreme as like an ACL tear, something like that. Be gracious. It wasn't worse. Like, and this is stuff that I could practice a lot better. It's not necessarily that initial couple of days after hurting yourself bad is like, you're not going to be gracious during that period. You know what I mean?
Pissed off. You can't do what you're planning to do before. Like, and there's certain things where you look at it, you're like, man, if I had just not been stupid, damn, why was I stupid? Why did I do this? You
kind of have to go through all those stages of grief before you get to the point that, all right, this has happened. Why did it happen? What can I do to change it? Thank God it wasn't worse.
Yep.
Let's move on. Like, you know, that's probably have a whole podcast just on
grace
for the most part. But like,
I mean, I think about when I got hurt just before regionals, immediately after my thing was, okay, we're going to see how it feels in a couple of days. Like, and really know.
Yeah.
Went ahead and ordered some TB500. I was like, this on the way. Let's go ahead and just make sure that I do everything that I can just to make sure that this is good by regionals. There's nothing more I can do at this point. It's not like I can make it better, like, in the moment. Like, I have to just do what I can to get to regionals. After
it's already happened, you have to follow that medical chain of command. You have to go find out what's wrong, get the referral to the ortho, get all the imaging done, do your PT, continue your PT, ease back into it, all those things that we talked about. But like, one thing that really comes to mind when I talk about injury now, and it takes that place of gratitude to some extent to be able to be introspective enough to realize it, is what I could have done differently to prevent it. Mm-hmm. We talked about the Louis thing, weak things break. Like, well, my fucking adductor, I had an adductor strain. Well, must be fucking weak there. That was true. What else happened? I was fucking dehydrated. Mm-hmm. Okay. Dehydration wildly increases injury risk, like wildly. And it's like, what, 16, 17% or some shit like that.
It's a lot.
So, like, you're talking about going from probably, a 1 in 100 chance to like a 1 in 20 chance.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's like pretty big increase. So like you need to like make sure you're hydrated, make sure you're fed, make sure you warmed up correctly. Like all these things, not just like what it says on your programming and like, oh, I have weak triceps, I need to work on triceps. That's true. But like if you're dehydrated, it was going to be weak. So like, you need to like all the like things that seem superficial that surround those things, you start addressing that stuff too. Anabolics is a big one. Like you can outgrow what your tendons can handle.
Yep. Happens to bodybuilders all the time.
It does, 100%. Happens to us in strength sports all the time. Barring something like growth hormone or DECA, which tends to be a little bit good for the joints, most things are going to stress your joints faster than they would have been stressed without it. So like, you have to look at all the, exogenous hormones you're taking, your hydration. If you're taking exogenous hormones, you need more hydration because your body temperature rises and you burn more water. There's, a million things that go into it, but like you have to, post injury, you have to be willing to say, you have to have that experience, that graciousness to be able to look at all these things you did wrong and say, I need to hydrate better, I need to eat better, I need to warm up better, and I need to address this in my program. And otherwise, you're just going to keep it might not be the same muscle, but you're going to keep repeating the same shit all the time. So follow your medical chain of command. If you're hurt, like, just go to the fucking doctor.
Yep.
Best advice I can tell you initially. If it's already happened, just go to the fucking doctor. It might get better. My groin did. It ultimately made other things a lot worse because I didn't go. So like things I'm still fighting 5 years later. So don't be fucking dumb. Just go to the doctor. Yeah. You pay for insurance for a reason. Eat that fucking deductible, take your ass to the doctor, figure out what's going on, fix it, and then come back.
Right.
So
it's not worth the long-term stress.
No, not at all. That was a topic. We need to go ahead and say we're not medical professionals. This comes from a place of experience. And I really do believe a good ortho that you can talk to is really, really important, that you can communicate well with. And I really do believe in the power of PTs. I think in our situation, what I've learned from being in physical therapy is most people are excited to have some semblance of an athlete and not somebody in there just like that's old or post-surgery or something like that. Like they definitely see more of the senior demographic. Like PT work is not as sexy as we want it to be.
Right.
Like it's not, superstar baseball players and football players in your PT office all the time. It's mostly, Nana that threw her hip out and we're trying to fix her. Like they're probably going to be kind of happier there and can kind of help something in an athletic realm. Ask questions, do what they ask you to do. Be gracious toward them. They want you to get better. You know what I mean? They do want your money too. Right. But it's probably at that point, it's probably your insurance paying them. So and that's what you pay for it for. But like, PTs just, they do the Lord's work for real. I mean, so pay attention to what your physical therapist says for real. Like, they also don't want you to, they're not going to give you a doom and gloom response like your ortho might or like your general practitioner might. PTs typically are working with people that, like I said, they're elderly, and then other people, they're dealing with sports injuries and they know you're going to return to sport.
Right.
If you tear your ACL playing football as a freshman in high school, they know you're probably going to go back and play football. Like, so they're not going to tell you, don't ever do this again. Yeah. No, you can't. Stuff like that. Like, so it's kind of, the PT experience can kind of be refreshing and can honestly be pretty fun. And you might find it to be pretty physically challenging because every time I've gone, I've discovered something and I was like, holy fuck, I'm bad at this. Like, so, that's really the key. Like, I think actually taking physical therapy seriously is so fucking important. Taking the whole process, being willing to go to the doctor initially. Yeah. But then taking the whole process seriously, but especially PT, fucking life-changing. Yeah. I can't tell you how many PT movements that are in my client's programming now because of something I did when I fucked myself up and I was like, oh, fuck, this is a hell of a hamstring pump. We're keeping this. or even if it's like, I feel like this person is experiencing the same things I experienced. What can we do to head this off and prevent it from happening? Stuff like that. You'd be surprised at how much I learned about my own job by going to physical therapy.
Yeah.
So super fucking important that you go.
Makes sense to me.
Yep. You got dad jokes?
I can find some as soon as my shoulder stops itching.
You're going to have to put the medical disclaimer in front of this one.
Yeah, I will. I always put it in the comments. Or not the comments, the show notes or whatever the hell they're called. Description. Did you know that worrying works? Because more than 90% of the things I worry about never happen.
Oh, did I say that one last week?
Did you?
Yeah, but that's a fucking good one, though.
Today I learned if you turn a canoe over, you can wear it as a hat because it's capsized.
God. He's beating us up today.
Someone asked me what the 9th letter of the alphabet was. It was a complete guess, but I was right.
Oh, man.
My boss said to me, "You are the worst train operator ever. How many trains have you derailed this past year?" And I said, "I'm not sure. It's hard to keep track."
So just a comment on the very first one. The worrying works. 90% of the things I worry about don't happen. I have never heard a joke that encapsulated anxiety disorder better than that does. That is, if you wanted to know how Zach's brain worked, it's that joke.
Yeah.
100%.
I mean, just talking about that briefly, I was doing a project at work. This is not a project that was assigned to me. This is not a project that was requested of me. I was just doing it because I had extra time, right? So I'm just pulling some data, making some graphs and charts and stuff, just kind of like just doing some analytics. No big deal. And I show it to my boss, and she's like, "Yeah, it looks good." Yeah, like, no big deal. And then I take it to the warehouse operations manager. I'm like, "This is something that I'm looking at." They're like, "Yeah, that looks good." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Well, I'll send it out in an email." So I sent out an email, and as I'm leaving, I'm like, that was like a very mid reaction. And I feel like, because when I sent it out to a batch group, basically. And it's going to like the senior manager, the site director, like all these big names. And I'm like, as I'm leaving, I'm thinking, I'm going to get some replies. And they're like, "Why the fuck did you make this? This is pointless. This is a waste of your time. Like, don't ever do this again." And when I came back to work that day, I had like 3 replies from seniors, coordinators, and someone else. And they're like, "This is amazing. Thank you for making this." And I'm like, thank God.
Much ado about nothing. You know?
I was so worried that I was going to get some negative feedback on it, but all I got was positive. So
the more senior they are, the more the time they actually had to look at it. Probably the less blue collar their job title is.
Yeah,
like
actually being able to like look at it and read it and be like, "Oh wow, this is cool stuff." I thought it was cool when I was making it, but I also just really like data analytics, so that's why I'm going to school for it.
So coming from somebody who always chronically disappointed his dad, my fear is everybody's going to think anything I do is stupid, to be completely honest with you. So
I feel that. Not quite to that extent, but I get it. Like,
yeah.
I always feel like, man, is this even worth a shit? Like, this thing that I made, does it just kind of suck? I'm very hypercritical of things that I make. So
it seems like the more excited about it I am, the less other people are too. And it's like,
damn it.
You don't understand how important this is, but I guess it's only important in my mind.
Right.
So I'll just go eat a 38 now.
All right. I'll get one last one, then we'll wrap it up. I found out that you don't need training to be a garbage man. You just pick it up as you go along. Oh man, now I'm just looking at brownies. That's 90% of my saved at this point is brownies and cheesecake.
Welcome to the cut life. Fuck. Again, none of this was real medical advice. Don't take us seriously, or do. It is coming from a place of experience.
Use it at your own discretion.
You use your fucking brain when it comes to injury is the biggest thing. Yeah. That's the reason I cannot stress enough that going to the doctor is the most important thing you can do directly after an injury. Right. Don't stick around for your accessory work. Don't fucking do anything like that. Just fucking load up and go. And
or get someone to drive you if you have to. If it's that bad.
Whatever it may be. And don't put it off. And then just do what they tell you.
Yep.
For God's sake.
I would also say use your brain on what they tell you to. Most of the time,
be discerning.
Give you the,
try to communicate.
Yeah.
How you feel, stuff like that.
If something doesn't make sense, ask questions. Why do you need me to do this? Because this, they may have a good answer for you, or they may be like taken aback, and maybe they had a wrong assumption or something.
I got the Forrest Gump back, man. My back's as crooked as a question mark, and every time I've had like a back strain, knowing it was muscular, they take an X-ray and they're like, "Oh, your back's fucked up. This could be wrong. You should see a back surgeon." No, it's muscular. You should see a back surgeon. We're going to send you anyway. You don't know what you're talking about. It's muscular. No, it's not. It is. They refer me to a back surgeon. And I'm like, they get to the back surgeon, like, do you feel anywhere else? Is this happening? Is this happening? Is this happening? No, I'm pretty sure it's muscular. He's like, I agree. I think it's muscular. It's like, fuck, waste of my fucking time.
Yep.
But just communicate. I mean, they're gonna roll their eyes. They're gonna, do shit like that. But you do need to make them aware. And I would say, if it is back related, I would ask them for a referral to both an ortho and a neurologist over a ortho that specializes in backs.
Right.
That would be my 2 cents. But again, follow your medical chain of command.
Right. And use your brain.
Neurologists deal with spinal cord injuries is the reason I'm saying, and they're typically a better place if you have to have your back worked on too than an ortho that happens to do backs.
Right.
So.
Makes sense.
Like I said, personal experience stuff. But just follow your medical chain of command so we don't get sued. This is not real medical advice.
There's a whole thing. I'll have to find it, but it's like a paragraph long that is a giant disclaimer.
Yeah, we're going to put the disclaimer in there, and just keep in mind that 2 drunk guys is probably not the best place to get advice from.
I'm not drunk.
No, I mean we're not, but I mean it is a Sip It and Rip It podcast, and it is presumed. I would imagine that we are. I just had 2 beers, so
I had a little. I don't know how much was in that little shot thing. I'm guessing like an ounce or 2.
Yep. So
not much.
No, not much at all. Don't be a hoe, share the show. Don't sue me, Andy Frisella. You can listen to us on Spotify podcast, Apple podcast. You can watch us on YouTube. Like, subscribe, leave comments, rate us 5 stars. Send us DMs on Instagram. You can find us at Coleman_Barbell, at Nathan Skiddios, at Sip It and Rip It. Tell us we're great. Tell us we suck. Just tell us something.
If you want to be on the show, DM us.
Yep. We're going to get a date on it, but local bodybuilder Chris Stacks is coming up on the show here soon. Me and Nathan will discuss that and find out when he's going to be on. He will be live with us and not on Riverside. That'll be a change up for us recently.
I have to get things working again.
But that's exciting. Different perspective. Trains quite a bit differently than we do. So also a very good and very wise man to listen to in the gym. The big guys in your gym know something.
Most of the time.
Pay attention. That's all I got. All I got to say. They didn't get big for no fucking reason. So
use your brain.
Have a brain, but they know something. So. But yeah, we're excited to have him on. And then thanks to our sponsors, The Butcher and Jam Logistics. Buy your meat there. If you're in the gas business, use Jam Logistics, but we aren't, so they provide us our liquor. So they do a great job, though, and we appreciate them. Yeah, that's the show. Bye, y'all.